Good morning, my mystery tackle box friends. So today we were the first person at the ramp, and that's because we're going to be going over 3 different topwater lures for you guys and hopefully catching some giant summertime bass. So before we start plugging away, I want to show you these lures really quickly. So we're going to start off with the Bagley Sunny Bee Twin Spin. So this is kind of your old school prop style bait. You can see it has 2 props on there, a nice bluegill pattern, 2 treble hooks too. So this is a really great finesse styled bait. You can fish this in clear water. You want to fish it in flat conditions just like today. You can fish it around cover. It's really subtle. It sounds awesome coming through the water. This is definitely one I think we're going to catch some fish on today. Next up we have one of my favorite topwater lures to fish, and that is the Lucky Craft Gunfish. This is the 95 model. This also comes in a 110, so this one's going to be a little bit smaller, but this is the one that I'll generally opt for. This is almost like your standard walk the dog style bait or cigar bait, but since it has that cupped lip, it really spits a lot of water, and it works really well in dirty water and windy conditions. Whereas if you pick up something like the Sammy from Lucky Craft, I'll generally throw that when the water's a lot calmer, but this works in all conditions. This is one of my favorite topwater lures. It's really great from post-spawn through fall. So this thing works awesome like in really shallow, small pockets, all the way out to deep feeding bass. Like when they're chasing shad around and you see them surfacing and going crazy on top, throw a gunfish through there, it's almost a guaranteed bite. But I have one more lure to show you quickly. And last but not least, we have a hollow body frog, and this isn't just your standard hollow body frog. This thing is a monster. This is Snagproof's Frogzilla. So this thing is absolutely massive. Like, it's as big as my hand. It doesn't have your standard silicone strands as the tails. This is actually just one solid piece of plastic, so it's super sturdy. The body of this thing's got to be 4 inches total length, probably closing in on 6. But we're gonna just walk this through the pads today. This is what you're gonna want to throw when you're looking for that absolute mondo of a fish. Something else really interesting about this is it only has a single heavy-duty frog hook on there. Normally when you get your hollow body frogs, they have those 2 hooks in the back. This one's going with the single hook. So that's something we're going to be trying out for the first time today, which I'm pretty stoked for. I think this thing's going to catch me some big bass, especially in these pads. So now that you guys have seen all of these, we'll get into a little bit more about what I'm throwing them on, what kind of line, etc. But let's see if we can get some of these fish to bite first. Well, we're coming up on some good looking pads right now. We have high tide, so these fish should be pushed up pretty good into these pads. We're going to start off with the Frogzilla. See if anything wants to eat this giant beast. So this is a perfect presentation as to what you want to throw your frog around. Any sort of super heavy cover, whether that's, you know, really thick grass or lily pads or thick wood on shallow flats. That's my favorite place to do it. What's really cool about throwing the frog is they're super easy to skip. So when you get yourself into some overhanging trees and stuff like that, this thing can just go. Like, you can get it wherever you want it. You also really want to fish these on heavy gear. I'm throwing this on a 7-foot extra heavy rod, which is actually a little bit short. Generally I'm throwing it on a 7.6, but today we're going with the 7-foot extra heavy, and I'm throwing it on 65-pound braid. One thing you definitely want to look for when you're fishing pads like this is you want to fish the outsides of it. You want to hit like the points and the pockets on the outside. If you're not getting bit there, then you definitely want to get back into those holes like that. With most frogs, you can walk them pretty easily. This one almost seems to want to be swimmed a little bit more because of those really long plastic tails, but it does walk a little bit. And the way you do that is you just give the rod really quick snaps downward like this. So you're just constantly pulling it on a little bit of slack line so it'll walk. Alright guys, so we worked our way through the pads with the Frogzilla, but we just came up to more of an open flat here. So this is, boom, right there. So we just saw a fish jump right on the flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to stay further off and throw the gunfish and the Sunny Bee twin spin a bit. Just work this bank all the way up until we get to some more pads or heavy cover. We'll pick the Frogzilla back up. So we're going to throw around the Sunny Bee twin spin for a little bit. So this is your standard styled prop bait. This works really well in shallow water, especially when the bluegill are spawning. You can see that this has a nice bluegill pattern to it. So When those fish are shallow, just give this thing a bunch of small little pops, just so these props make some noise. You're doing little snaps with the rod, and generally I'm going to throw this on monofilament to keep this up in the water column. You can throw it on braid as well. As you can see, I'm throwing it on the spinning rod today. So this is a 7-foot medium spinning rod, and again, we're just fishing this shallow, kind of tight to cover, you know, nothing too crazy. We're not going to throw it in the middle of the lily pads, but you know, on the outsides of it, we're going to throw it close to wood. And again, remember, you're going to want to fish this real shallow, so we're going to see if this thing will get us anything. So I'm throwing a prop style bait like this. I'm going to cast it out, wait till those rings dissipate till they're completely gone, and from there you're going to reel up your slack. You're going to give your rod just really small little pops like that. You just want those props to spin real quick and then let it sit, and you can pause it. And that's what really drives those fish crazy, is pausing it. You're almost working it similarly to a popper. Come on. On the Bagley twin spin, nice little 2-pound post-spawn Potomac fish. Not bad. He came right up on the shoreline next to some grass. Basically casted behind the boat. I saw a small swirl. Came up and ate it. Alright you guys, so I'm throwing the gunfish on a 7.6 medium heavy rod. The reason I'm throwing it on a rather long rod is because I like to be able to bomb this thing, especially out in the summertime. If you see feeding fish kind of out behind you or out in the middle, this thing literally casts a freaking mile. So it has a really nice tail weighted technology, so you can just bomb this thing. I mean, you can really cast it far and accurately. So I'm also throwing this on 15-pound monofilament. The reason I'm going with monofilament is because it floats. You can also opt for braid if you want to do that, and I do throw these on braid sometimes, which is really nice because you have a very good control over the lure. You can give it really small little snaps, and this thing just has a super erratic action. But this bait, again, one of my favorite topwaters to throw. We're going to continue down this bank, see if we can get one. So most of the topwater baits that you're going to be fishing that are kind of walk the dog style are really all coming from your wrist. So the action's all coming here, and you're basically just popping the slack out of the line. You're not pulling the line on taut line, you're actually just popping the slack out of it. Just giving the rod little twitches just like that. Basically a half turn of the reel handle per twitch. That makes this bait walk really well. Oh, there we go. Oh. Nice. Oh yeah, he's dogging me. There we go. Targeting actually shallow shoreline grass. We got away from the lily pads a little bit and started to catch them, but nothing huge, but still fun to catch them on topwater like that.